use of chat is going to be wild. Join in whenever you like. With that, let me introduce our speaker, Derrick Trimble. He is an author, a speaker, and founder of Nudge Creative Labs. He likens this session to a Jackson Pollock painting. Get ready to explore your creative side and discover that you can use your creativity to make a mark.
Warning: the following presentation may contain flashing images. Flashes of inspiration and sparks of creativity are inevitable.
When you woke up this morning, I bet you didn't give creativity a second thought. And yet you went about your day, doing all the things you normally do, maybe a few things out of order, but you did that all the way through the day, and you'll do it into the night. Because as you're moving along, you are creating something that is unique. And at the end of the day, when you go to bed, your brain will continually be making creative motions, and you will create a new you for tomorrow. Welcome everybody to this session. I got to tell you, there's going to be little surprises around every corner, but nothing is dangerous. All right. So stick with me. This is going to go fast and fun, and we're going to do a lot of stuff in a little bit amount of time. The question I want to present to you is, what does it mean to be a creative? And I'm not talking about what does it mean to be creative. Everybody knows what that is. That's something akin to just creating something. You make something. But what does it mean to be a creative? Well, I'd be curious if you have any ideas what that means by putting it into the chat. What does it mean to be a creative? Well, you do things all the time in a creative notion. You could be doing design work. You could be in the arts of some sort. There's all kinds of different things that express your creativity. Accountants, software engineers, everybody is using creativity in one way, shape, or form in order to produce something. This is what makes us unique, what we contribute to the world around us. It's our creativity. Our experiences and all the things that make up who we are is what we deliver to the world outside of us. Now, I am curious. You've seen a number of different images here. What is it that you do, or what is it that you want to do that you could demonstrate your creativity? Again, I'd love to see some things in the chats down here. So by all means, jump in. Let's make the Zoom bombers who are cussing in there and putting all kinds of crazy stuff, let's quieten them out by speaking out positive things about our creativity. Because this isn't about me being on here today. This is about you. This is about you demonstrating the things that are inside of you that say, hey, look, I am a creative. Whether I'm in sciences, whether I write, whether I blog, whether I'm a speaker, any of these things that you're demonstrating your creativity, boy, I tell you what, that's what you want to jump on. Shut down the hackers. Mind you, they're being creative as well. And you can't accuse them of not being creative. But you know what? You are creative. And that's what I'm hoping that you're going to get out of this session. The recognition, the realization, an appreciation for the things that you are, because creativity is what we're all about. And although we're at a time of uncertainty at the moment, and we all know that we're in a time of uncertainty, those things disrupt. And disruption sometimes is an adjutant for our being able to be creative. It's like a burr under the saddle that causes us to, or a grain in your shoe that irritates, and it makes us have to find different ways around it. It may even cause adversity in our life. And adversity, you know what, when things get tough, I know what they say. What's the old adage? The tough get going. Great 80s song, right? Anyway, adversity. So uncertainty can lead to adversity. And what we look for when adversity comes at us in full force, like we've seen with the COVID-19 issues, is we want to look for something that we can base our existence on, something that we can trust, something that we know is going to be solid in our life, something that brings certainty. Now, there may be a lot of things that are certain in your life, but I know of one thing for for certain that is there in your life, and that's your ability to create. If there's a difficult challenge, if there's a problem out there, you can create a solution to it. And then there's the creative element of your expression as well. We're going to cover all of that stuff tonight, and demonstration of not how to be creative or how to be a creative, but how you are a creative and how you can demonstrate that creativity, that unique stamp of who you are on the world around you, and see that satisfaction in your own life through 7 different qualities of the creative process. We're going to go over those in little snippets. They're going to blast in about 3 to 4 minute sections so that it imprints. You are creative. Now, I think we're going to see an actor. I love it. You want to be an actor. Creativity to be in the box. Creativity is to play. Open your mind, let your imagination on. Oh, yes. It seems to me like you all are enjoying that prospect that you are creative. Everybody, when you look at them in their eyes, when you see their face, when you engage in your life, you can look into them and you can say, you know what? There's something creative in that person. One of the beautiful things that you have an opportunity, especially as a Toastmaster when you're engaging people, is to find ways to draw that creativity out and have them demonstrate it so other people can see it. Because creativity that's happening in your brain isn't creativity until it's delivered. We're going to go over that many times today because I want you to be something that you imprints on you. Creativity is a process, but a creation is an act or something that's demonstrated. The making of a star begins with hydrogen and helium. It's superheated. It becomes hot until it brightly shines in the sky. You want to be remembered? Do you want to be a star in the world and the area of influence that you have in your life? Then you're going to need to burn brightly. And that comes as a result of you being creative, being unique, being the star that only you can. We're going to look at a number of different things tonight. See, tell, flow, play, feel, be, and do. Those are 7 qualities of the creative process that we're going to look about how you are each one of these things or how you do them. Culinary arts and creativity. How about gardening? That as well. We should see a poll popping up there now. Excellent. Perfect. Right. The first thing we're going to look at is how you see. Come on, white screen. I got a little bit more time here. How you see. Oh, we've got a scribble on there. Somebody's being creative on our screen. Excellent. That's why we were getting blurbed, because somebody was using our screen to demonstrate how you see. Okay. Now we got to catch up. See. See comes in a number of different ways. We can see with our eyes, and we bring that in at about 11 megabytes per second. I'm going to give you some numbers here about how we're taking in data. In touch, we take in data into our brain at about 1 megabyte per second. All right. When we listen, we're bringing in as hearing about 100 kilobytes per second. I know some people like numbers. When we smell something, our olfactory system brings it in at about 100 kilobytes per second. And the 5th sense, as you some well know, is taste. And that's the lowest of our data sensory receptors. And that comes in at about 1 kilobyte per second. Now, here's the thing. There's 5 senses. And we're bringing in stuff all of the time in all those 5 senses. But in seeing, we keep getting blocks in here. I'm not quite sure where they're coming from. But we're going to do an activity. Oh, because we're getting blocked, we're losing time here at times. So for 1 minute, I'm going to show you some visuals. What do you see? That was 74 images in 60 seconds. A lot of images. Now, if I asked you to describe what you saw, maybe the top 3 things that you saw, not one of you will show something differently. Oh, not one of you say the same thing. What we're looking for, and the last of the greatest C's, is understanding. How we see things and what we understand them to be, or how we interpret them, is the real value of C. When we see, as a part of our demonstration of what's remembered, what we see and what we project to others makes us our unique perception. Now, how are you going to tell that? How are you going to take what you see and tell that to others? A couple years ago, I had a protege in a speaking club, and she wanted to give a dance demonstration for her icebreaker. I said, sure, why not? Give a demonstration. Fatima came in to do her icebreaker, and she did this lovely 30-second display of her dancing skills. How you communicate what you understand of the world can be a myriad of different things. There are so many different ways that you can communicate what you see and what you understand. When it comes to what we communicate about what we see, we're really trying to communicate what we understand of the world and how we're understanding our perceptions of it. We can do that in so many different ways, through art, through communication with numbers, through, how many different ways are there really to communicate your understanding? I'm thinking that as the group of people that we have here, if you just communicate in the chat, you're communicating what you understand or what you don't understand. As a kid, I remember being a Saturday morning cartoon kid. And a lot of the things, all the memes that I had in my life came as a result of watching cartoons and Hanna-Barbera. Those still stick with me. What we understand and how we communicate that out makes us unique. The stories that we tell, they're our experiences. The way we put together our presentations, the way we put together our speeches makes us unique. We don't want to be copycats, because the copycat of somebody else's understanding diminishes who we are as an individual. So being able to tell what we communicate, tell what we understand, is critical for our uniqueness. How you tell makes you, or demonstrates your uniqueness. You want to make an impression on your audience. And how you're going to do that is the way you tell, your style. Now, we know that when we're meeting somebody for the first time, there's a lot of things that we see about them that we size up. So when we meet somebody, we might see the physicality of their person, how they talk, how they dress, fragrance, aroma, even the environment that we're around. All of those things communicate something about our perspectives in life. If we want to be unique, if we want to make a mark in other people's lives and make an impression, where that's going to find the most value, again, is in how unique you are in that demonstration of communication. Be deliberate in the impressions that you're going to make. Those impressions may be there for a long time in somebody else's life. So if you're deliberate in the impressions that you make, then not only can you be remembered for what you've done, but you will be remembered by the person who you're making that impression on. What impressions are you making on the people in your life today? What are you doing to be deliberate in that impression? We've talked about see, we've talked about tell. Now, what about the ideas that other people have? What about integrating things that are out there that maybe we'd like to make it part of our life? That's how you flow. Normally, when I'm talking about flow, I'm talking about all of the different things that come into our life, all the stimuli that enter into our existence and become part of our experience. And then we take that in and make it part of us. But today I'm going to take a little bit different tack, because this is about innovation, really. What are you going to do in order to make an impression on other people's lives in this age of uncertainty that we're in? How are you going to stand out? Well, going to a business model, there is a number of different stages that we can go through. The very first stage of innovation are the innovators. These are what Malcolm Gladwell would call the outliers in the world. They're the ones who make a difference before anybody else realizes difference needs to be made. Then there's the early adopters, the visionaries who try to adopt what the innovators said and make it more profitable. Then you have the early majority. Those people are going, that's a great idea, Derrick. I'm going to go with that. This is fantastic. And then we're going to work with it. Then you have the late majority. Now, these folks are the ones who are a bit traditionalists and they drag their heels. They don't want to adjust or adopt to new technologies. And last of all, you have the laggards. And they're the ones that say, what just happened? Did I miss something? So looking at this graph, looking at this bell chart, how many of you like graphs and bell charts? I know there's a few of you out there because they just go, oh, I love to communicate in graphs and bell charts. And boy, do I like numbers. Well, here, this is just for you. So if you look at the innovators, that's only 2.5% of the people out there that are innovators are in that category. If you really want to make a difference in people's lives, if you really want to stand out, you want to shoot for that innovator role. Because in that innovator role, you're saying to people, let me show you what I see as possible. And if you're not in the beginning in the innovators, why not get into the early adopters and say, I can see it. Let me run with it. What you want to avoid is that opposite end, the laggards, where it's, what happened? Did I miss something? Or let me get out my 8-track. I can use it still. See, flowing is about bringing things in, innovation, and then trying to make it yours. We live in a world where technology is rapidly charging forward. A year ago, who would have thought that we would have been having a conference like this online? 9 months ago, we wouldn't have thought about this. The technology that I'm using for creating this video, making it available for somebody who's not a graphic designer, that's available now. Where are we going? Are you going to be an innovator? Are you going to be an early adopter? Are you going to be an early majority, a late majority? Or are you going to be a laggard? With vision, you can take in what you see coming and make it yours, innovate, and make a difference. Good, I like seeing over here. We got innovator, earlier adopter, M.I. Krishna. Well, thanks for the graphs. I'm glad you all like the images. Where and when will you adopt and adapt? In your life, in your business, in whatever you're going to be doing, where and when are you going to adopt and adapt? Now, I know some of you have been looking forward to this one. This is how you play. And we're about, believe it or not, we're about halfway through our session here. So we're going to do an activity. I want you to loosen up a little bit. Raise your hands up in the air. Okay, put your hands up in the air. Get ready. Get ready. Go with the flow. You ready? Whoa, 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 whoa. We're doing the twirly now. Doing the twirly. Oh. Whoa, man. 360. Oh, man. Oh. Oh. Just to let you know, if you weren't aware of that already, that's called playing. All right? So, who says you can't have fun online? That was 36 seconds, about a minute or 2 minutes less than what you would do it on a regular one. What does play mean anyway? Well, I like to use a very broad view of play. Play can be playing a game like this young man is doing with his sister. It could be exploring your abilities and finding out what you're capable of doing. That's play. It could be doing something that's extraordinary, something out of what you normally would do, testing your boundaries. See, play isn't just about fun. Play is exploring, self-discovery, finding out what you're capable of doing. So if you want to be remembered, how you play is going to play a big part of that. What risks are you willing to take to play, to explore? If you stay in the same pattern all the time and you don't test your boundaries, that's going to become visible. So if you hear somebody speaking 5 years ago and they're still speaking the same way 5 years later and they haven't grown, they haven't played. They haven't been in a self-discovery mode where they're trying to find out what they're capable of doing. In order to be strategic in this, you need to take controlled risks. I get that. Not everybody has the same tolerance for risks, but whatever is your safety mechanism, the thing that you should be attempting to do is taking some risks. Play with ideas, play with possibilities, play with what you have fun with challenges. There's lots of things that you can do out there that will make things enjoyable for you and help you to become a better person. What is your tolerance for taking risks? Have you thought about it? Are you high risk type of person who's willing to jump out of planes or go, parasailing? Or do you like to keep things tight and not branch out more than what is you know that you're capable of? Either way, you are taking risks. So why not take risks that will help to advance you? Why not take risks that you can have fun with at the same time? That being said, there are going to be moments where you're going to have emotions about how you take risks, how those risks are affecting you emotionally. And that's how you feel. How you feel is very important in terms of our roles as speakers, by the way. When we get ready to step in front of an audience, we might be terrified. We might be scared, timid. Our hands might get all sweaty, but that shows up. It's demonstrated to the audience in one way or shape or another. But you may not be aware of the feelings that you're feeling. I've met people and I know people who, if I said, what are you feeling? They don't know how to identify that. So there's something called an emotion wheel, which is pretty handy for helping people to understand what they feel. And I'm going to drag a copy of this over to you so in the chat so that you can have it there as well. You can take a look at that. I'm losing my mouse here. So maybe at the end of this, I'll pass this on to you. But in the center of this are basic emotions. And in the second tier are demonstrations of that. And then the third tier are more demonstrations of how you feel. So the basic ones are happy, surprised, bad, fearful, angry, disgusted. Now that's good for helping you to identify. What if you want to identify how your audience or what you want your audience to perceive? Well, that's why I like to use the Plutchik emotion wheel, because here it shows connectivity between different emotional states. And it's excellent if you're crafting a speech, for instance, and you want that speech to evoke a particular kind of emotion, you can use different evocative triggers, if you would, to get the kind of response that you want. How are you remembered? Let me say this right now. It's very clear. How are you remembered? By how you make people feel. How you make people feel is how you're going to be remembered. You make them feel valued, and they're going to feel valued. Oh, cue music. Tell me how this music makes you feel. Over here. Tell me what the music feels like to you. First one's almost over. Next one. And one more. Whew. I know we've been rushing through this. I'd just like to encourage you when it comes to feeling so that you can connect with your audience, connect with other people, is to invest the effort to appreciate your emotional state. If you know yourself well, you will get to know other people well as well. So get to know yourself well. I know for some of us, we've been going through this awful fast. There's a reason for that. This is my Jackson Pollock wand, my dad's paintbrush, and I'm flicking things as quickly as I can because I want to see what sticks. Next is how you be. All right. Now, I know how you be is not particularly good grammar. All right. I get that. But it's not how you are that is I'm asking. It's how you be. What is this? What is the being of you? That is your value set. When you look into somebody's eyes, you've got to realize there's a whole life experience behind them that makes them who they are today. When your audience members connect with you, they're not just connecting with the speaker that's in front of them. They're connecting with everything that went into what you are. That's visible to the eyes. Why do you think at Toastmasters, by the way, that it's so important that we make eye contact with our audience? Because when we make eye contact with our audience, we have the opportunity to connect with them. And so if we're going back to the feel part about feeling and feeling not only our own emotions, but the emotions of those who are receiving our communication, it's also important to be able to connect to who they are. What's going on? What contributed to the things that were in their life that made them what they are today? We are a complex people. We have a lot of things going on. And in that, you just really want to connect with people. In this day and age right now, let's be honest. It's challenging. We've been separated from one another. We have something called social distancing, and the reality is for us that we weren't meant to be apart. We were meant to connect. And you know what? That connectivity is what makes us more valuable to others. When we connect with them and they are able to connect with us, something happens. A relationship builds, a camaraderie builds, community builds. Something happens when we are ourselves and we can establish that as a common bond. I'm myself and you're yourself, and together we are unique. When you look in the mirror in the morning, what do you see? Who do you see? The confidence, timidity. I'm hoping that you're going to see creativity. The question you ask in terms of your be or how you be is, what is important to you? As adage, where your heart is, there will your treasure be also. So follow the things that are important to you when you're communicating, when you're building this creative you. Always be aware of what's important to you. Let people know that this is who I am. Before I started this session, I had this all scripted out. I was ready to just read from a script off of a teleprompter up there. And then I remembered this slide that I put in here. Be yourself. I'm not a script guy. I'm not a script dude. I'm a Jackson Pollock paint flipper, right? So I would encourage you, whatever you're creating, be yourself. You can't be anything else. Lastly, and back to the very beginning of our session, I talked about what it takes to be a creative. To be a creative, you have to do. As things are going on in your heart or in your head, you really never demonstrate what you're created until you do something. That is how you are remembered. You have to do. If you want to be remembered by some action that you've done, some behavior, something about you, you want that remembered, there has to be a demonstration of it. And in the creative process, there is no creative process unless it is being created and it's an action. Look, there's 7.8 billion people on the planet, right? That's a lot of people. How do you stand out in the middle of 7.8 billion people? Well, you don't. Don't expect to stand out in 7.8 billion people. Find your niche. Find the thing find the place where you can make a difference. Instead of asking a lot of marketing questions right now, how important is it to ask questions like, how many others are in my demographic? What's the competition? Who cares what the competition? There's only one of you. In the big crowd out there, you don't need to touch all of them. You need to touch those who you can influence. You need to touch those who will gather around the message that you have or the communication of your understanding. Or another question that might be, but trust me, I like metrics, I like measurement. I know that they're necessary in business and everything else, but I wonder, is it also important to ask who makes up your audience? A lot of times I'm asked, who's my audience? Who's my target audience? And I go, I don't know who my target audience is. I guess it's anybody who wants to listen to the message. And the message is one of creativity and releasing people in their creativity. If you want to do, if you want to act, if you want to make a difference, do what's unique to you. I just want to, if I could point out just one thing that's worthy of noting when it comes to how you do, it's this one thing. Come on, hand, go down. Thank you very much. Yeah, go down now. Yeah, okay. A creation is not a creation until it is manifest. The person that you're creating, the concept that you're creating, the speech that you're creating doesn't exist until other people can see it or hear it. In the obscurity of the shadows of all the people wandering around the earth, if you want to stand out, to be bright, you need to stand out and be yourself. Look, anonymity is reserved for those who don't act. If you want to remain anonymous, just don't do anything. But if you want to celebrate your individuality and be you, gosh, have fun doing it. That is the key. Explore. Do all the things you want to do that's going to make your experience enriched with so many things that other people want to share in. It's what you do is how you will be remembered. What you do is how you will be remembered. All right? That's the 7 nudges, as I call them. We've been through a lot. I hope that you've enjoyed it so far. I'm just going to summarize very quickly with the things that we have that we've covered. All right, we talked about how it is to be, what is a creative, and then we went through 7 processes of creativity. There is how you see. That's how I uniquely interpret the world around me, how I create an understanding of that. That's how I see. It alters the way I view the world. how I view myself, how I view the people in my life. How you see is critical for establishing a point of remembrance for those who are communicating with. After that, we looked at how you're going to take what you understand and then communicate that out to others. All right? So that's the tell, how you tell. I would love to be a musician and an artist and a sculptor and a glass blower and a dancer. I'm horrible at dancing, by the way, but I would love to do all those things. But my primary way of communicating is with words. And for many of you, that will be the same way. Find the place where you're comfortable, where you're most comfortable, and communicating what you understand. Find that place and be strong in it. By all means, use the things that are best practices, integrate things that other people do that work for you, flow with those. And then when you see things that are happening, when the visionary part of your mind begins to kick in, integrate those things. Be an early innovator, or at least an early adopter of new things. There's a future out there that's bright and beautiful. Be optimistic about it and pull that into the present and make it yours. And by all means, have some fun with it. Play with ideas. Once you get some things in your life that you want to play with, some discoveries that you have, see how you can bend them, break them, stretch them. What are the boundaries of possibilities on what I have available to me? That is play, and make the absolute most of it. Then we talked about feel, your emotions, how you become emotionally connected to your creation, how other people can become emotionally connected to your creation. And what a wonderful discovery once you see that that creation is you. How do you feel about the creation of you that you're making? How do you feel about the creation that you're making in other people as you deposit something of you into their life? And then we have how you be. Look, no matter what happens in this world, no matter what uncertainty comes, no matter what adversity, no matter what the universe throws at you, you can only be you. You can't be somebody else. Knowing your value set, knowing your experience, knowing the things that contribute to who you are, it really is going to be an identifier that says, I am who I am. And I'd like to hear that from you as well. I am who I am. I can't be anything else. And lastly, we talked about do, how you do. If you're going to make a mark in somebody's life, you can't do it sitting in a room with nobody else around. You've got to get on online, an online meeting, a chat room, a blog. You've got to get in front of an audience. You've got to do something to do. So that's why we encourage new members at Toastmasters to get up quickly and to do an introduction or do an icebreaker, because it sets a benchmark for how they are going to move forward, how they're going to do. Look, creativity opens up a world view of things that are possible. It's going to take some risks at times. Sometimes it's going to look scary. But I'll tell you what, the view from the top is absolutely worth the take. That's it for me. I'm going to be turning this over to Lou Brown now, who's going to be doing some questions and answering. But you know what? I hope that you will enjoy your creativity.
Thank you very much, Derrick. Folks, feel free to unmute and give Derrick a round of applause. I have to say, I am just so inspired. The presentation was incredible. Thank you so much, Derrick. We really appreciated that. Wonderful.
You're welcome, Lou. I had fun, man.
I am so happy because I know we had a lot of fun as well. I know I did. And I was so engrossed in your presentation. I was trying to get those questions in the chat at the same time. And I have to say, we had a lot of engagement. That was your goal. That was our goal. We had so much engagement. It was wonderful.
Good. Well,
Folks,
that was,
I put
look, this wasn't for me. This was for the audience, isn't it? I mean,
it
this
is.
this is for the audience. So
Yes, and we have some amazing reviews for you, Derrick. Folks, I did put information on Derrick's workshops in the chat. I did it a few times. If you still need that file, it is a one-page PDF file. Let me know, and I will load it again. Derrick, let's hop right into the questions, shall we?
sure. And I'm going to try to pop over here. If I can get my chat back up again, it's disappeared on me. I'm going to try to put the emotion wheel and that Pluchuk chart in there as well, and get those into the chat if I can possibly do that.
Wonderful. You just read my mind because that was one of the questions.
Yes,
Could
I'm
you
going to
please
get
share
those
the
over
wheel
there
of
right
emotion?
now.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I guess I'll start with a question that probably you can multitask while you're finding that and answer at the same time. And that is, what inspired you to do this kind of work, to be so creative?
Well, in a short nugget, I went back midlife to university to get a master's degree in business administration, and during that time, I read a book by an author named Dan Pink. It's called A Whole New Mind, and that just really triggered it off about what the future held and how creativity would be part of that. I've been pursuing that and pursuing this since 2006. I can't let it go. It's just something that's there. So I continue to explore different ways of making that a reality.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now, how important is external validation in the act of being creative?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it depends on the person. I mean, we go back to the B part. It's what's important to you. If external validation is important to you, then that's going to have a high ranking, isn't it? If external validation means nothing to you or very little to you, it means very little. So it comes down to the value set that you've developed over your lifetime. That's not a distracting or dismissive answer. That just is the reality of it. Is it depends on what your value set is.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And folks, I am loading Derrick's information, that PDF file in the chat. It's taking, the wheel is spinning. It's taking time to load, so you'll see that very soon. I'm getting a lot of questions on that. Derrick will be sharing his emotional wheel with you soon.
I am trying to
Derrick,
get
folks are,
that chat
oops.
up. Once I get one up, the chat disappears.
Oh no, maybe it fell under another window.
There it is. Okay, let's getting it now. Here we go.
Derrick, will we have access to this video or this recording so that we can watch this again? That may be one for our support team.
I think that Nick and team are going to make it available for on demand, but I'm also going to take it and make it on demand and put it onto YouTube. So,
wonderful, thank you. And this is a very common question. What did you use to create your presentation? Folks are simply
this is a shout out to my friend Nate, who's an independent filmmaker in Denver, Colorado. He turned me on to storybooks or story blocks. The video and the video I used was all from Storyblocks, so that's what I used for the video. When I use stills, I typically use Unsplash from unsplash.com. Storyblocks also provide some stills and audio, so the audio on this was also licensed through Storyblocks. What I put it together with was Adobe Premiere Pro.
Awesome, thank you, appreciate that. Let's see, can you share your thought process when you look for and compile information for your presentation? So what are you thinking about when you do that?
Well, I have a framework. So just like this video, I had a framework. The framework is the 7 nudges. This is what I've been working. It's a precept I've been working on for the last 10 years of the creative process: see, tell, flow, play, feel, be, do. Those are the 7 nudges. So that is the pretext for it, or the context for it. So I usually create a framework, and it's also the way I do my presentations for Toastmasters, to be honest. I create a framework for it and then I fill it in. That's why I use the illustration of the Jackson Pollock. You look at Jackson Pollock's paintings, they just look like a mess. but he set a framework, and everything that he did, every single splat, every single swish, whatever, had a purpose. It was meaningful. So I create a framework, and then I fill in the gaps.
Mm.
And,
Okay,
and
thank you.
I have to admit, what I did with this is I set up this visual, and like I said before, I scripted this, but scripts don't work for me, so I really had to go with the flow, which came in handy when we got Zoom bombed.
Yeah, that was an interesting point, wasn't it? Okay, Derrick, you talked about being deliberate in the impressions that you make. Can you elaborate on that, please?
I'm sorry, could you say that again, Lou?
You, during your presentation, you talked about being deliberate in the impressions that you make.
Yeah, I think that know that when you meet somebody, or that when you're engaging with somebody, you are making an impression. So being deliberate in it means that I know I'm going to be making an impression, not to create falsity, but create authenticity. If you're going to make an impression on somebody, be yourself, be deliberate. Uh, you can't be afraid of being you. If you're afraid of being you, that's going to be found out eventually. But if you're authentic, you are going to, and that takes deliberateness, because of peer pressure, social constructs, um, hierarchies, all those kind of things like that. Those things affect the way we look at life and affect the way we do things. But if you're authentic, you will, it takes a deliberate action to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That is it for the questions. I know there have been a lot of information that has been shared in the chat about different things that are going on. There's a survey. I reposted that PDF. Again, if you need that, please let me know. The emotional wheel, etc.
I'm
Derrick,
trying to
any
get the
other thoughts
emotional
you'd
wheel
like
up
to-
now, but my mouse has died on me, so I'm having to use the touchpad, and it's not easy to drag things over in the touchpad. Oh, wait a minute, I could do that, couldn't I? Sorry. Got to get
Oh, no
creative
problem.
here.
Good point. Yes. We
All
may be
right,
able to help folks.
we thank you so very much. Let's go ahead and turn off the spotlighting if we can, and show some love so Derrick can see everybody. Get those hearts going, raise the roof. Derrick, you are absolutely amazing, as I knew you would be. Some of the wonderful things that I was able to take out of this is touch those you want to influence. You don't have to touch everybody, and you can only be you. And sometimes we forget that. Derrick, you are as fabulous as I knew you were going to be. So thank you, thank you, thank you.